secretary, the role of secretary is really important for note taking. And I know personally myself, I find note taking really hard. It's one of those things that I'll go back and read my notes afterwards and realize I don't actually can't read my handwriting. I don't understand what I've written and I've got no idea what's happened. And so the role of secretary can really help you learn how to get those notes in order, how to record a meeting, and how to take effective notes so that when you are at work in a meeting and someone says, "Oh, can anyone remember what happened 2 weeks ago?" You've got a really good record of everything that's gone on. And so that role of secretary sometimes gets a little bit, I think it's sometimes underrated at a club meeting, but it can be a really effective way of dipping your toes into an executive role and learning just that new little skill for how to actually push forward with taking notes and coordinating what's going on. The role of treasurer. Now, I'll put in a disclaimer here. This is the only club executive role I've never done. And that is because I'm an accountant by day. And so I really don't want to have to deal with numbers outside of work. So it's the only role I haven't done for that very reason. But if you do find that you're not great at budgeting or you just money to you is just something that you don't really like or you know, don't think about, the role of treasurer actually does help you learn that you've got to collect money, pay to TI. What does all that look like? You've got exchange rates, inflation, all of that sort of stuff that really can help you understand the dollars and cents a little bit better. And again, with an online club, I'm assuming the membership fee is the membership fee and there's no added extras. So it can actually be a really simple way to be treasurer of an online club because you don't have all the extras to worry about, such as venue, hire, and payments. We then have VPPR and VPM, so Vice President of Public Relations and Vice President of Membership. And these two roles I'm going to do together because I think they help each other a lot. Vice President of Public Relations gets people into a meeting, and the Vice President of Membership converts those visitors to get to members. So they have to really work together a little bit to make sure that people are coming in and also being converted and getting the right information out there. And we might spend a little bit of time after I've gone through the executive roles to talk about that VPPR role and how we can get visitors into the club. But the role of Vice President of Education is one of my favorite roles for two reasons. One, having to actually set an agenda can be a little bit daunting. To have to deal with late apologies, people not showing up on time, things happen, life happens, it has to change on the go. So it makes you learn that you've got to be able to be flexible and have people that you can just move around really quickly. But secondly, to me, the Vice President of Education role really holds the puppet strings in the club because they're in control of the agenda. They get to choose all the lovely themes that clubs have. They get to do fun events and nights if they want to. So the role of Vice President of Education to me is actually one of the most creative roles in the club because whilst there's the agenda, the person gets the opportunity to add their own little flair and flavor to any meeting that they want to. And then there is the role of president, so the role that Shubi is in at the moment. And that's the role that really rules the roost in the club, that they set the tone, that they talk through what's going on, and ultimately they're the decision maker for any big decisions that get made with the club executive coming on board as well. So each role has its own nuances, it has its own lessons, and they all have their own transferable skills that you can then step out and use either in the workplace or at home. And there's one role that the club doesn't vote on, and that's the immediate past president. That's the freebie role that we give you at the end. But that's also the role that is mentoring, it's guiding, it's offering that knowledge, those lessons learnt that they learnt through their time on the executive that they can then share as well as help any newer members on the executive. So each role is set up for its own purpose and for its own ability to be able to teach us new skills. We come into the organization to learn how to be better speakers, impromptu speaking, whatever our individual reasons were. But it's all these extra transferable skills that we learn through club executive roles that can then really make the difference in our workplace and in our personal lives. So even though we've got some very experienced Toastmasters, I know I've got two past district directors on the call, think about a transferable skill that you need to focus on or one that you've kind of been putting off doing and not wanting to focus on in the Toastmaster environment, because every role really helps build a successful club. So with that, if there is going to be the future VPPR on the call, getting members into the club. What are ways that we are currently doing to get visitors to come along to visit Pride Leaders?
So we do Facebook advertising, and we've boosted our presence.
Fantastic.
And looking for people who are interested, particularly those who have an affection for the Pride Leaders organisation as active participants or as allies. I think they're just as important. And that's our purpose, is a distinct demographic. And we know that we are looking for that particular person. And even Pride Leaders does actually sound like a great group to be in.
Yeah.
And Andrew is working very hard in his area. We did a festival. What was the festival called, Andrew?
During Brisbane Pride Festival last year, we prepared some flyers and we handed them out. We've also made some warm connections with the local community radio station, who also, I think, may have another language speaking Toastmasters that runs from their station. But we went on their show that is LGBT focused, and we did a word of the week a couple of times and spoke at length about the opportunities that are available through Toastmasters. This method hasn't really proven that effective compared to some of the other methods like the Facebook advertising that Denise mentioned. But by far the most effective method of getting new members that I know of so far is people just inviting friends along, which I have done a couple of times. And we do have one member who has stuck around and is finding it really useful.
Fantastic. And I think they're all great things to keep going and keep moving with. One of the things about public relations is you never actually know, or there's no way of actually showing how it works. It's just people getting that name, getting that reminder time and time again. I think I heard one statistic where you need to actually hear of an organization 7 times to remember what it actually is. And you've got to have something like 20 touch points with it to then actually build trust. It's a very high number of touch points for actually then feeling like you're a part of what it is. So brilliant. Have you guys run a speechcraft course?
Not for Pride.
No?
But
we've done it in other clubs. I don't know whether we've got the capacity.
Yeah.
Not for Pride Leaders, but Monique, if that's something we are planning, and I have invited Monique to launch one of our clubs in the district. The club is in formation. So it will be online. And that is a good point, Monique. We can consider running Speechcraft for this club as well. We haven't considered it for Pride, but it's a good idea.
Yeah. And it can also be done so it gets weaved into meetings as well. If there were 2 or 3 people that wanted to do speechcraft, weaving it into club meetings as well, so that they're getting the club experience as well as that speechcraft experience to really get people engaged with the product and what you do.
So we're actually a rebranded club, Monique. We actually, our last Pride Club fell into obsolescence, and we rebranded it the very next week.
Yeah.
And that did bring new energy.
It
and
does.
also brought a different perspective and a different focus after we really thought hard on who we were trying to attract. And we know we're on the right path now of what we're trying to achieve. So we are building.
Brilliant.
The trouble is that we're all very busy. We're all in multiple clubs and doing multiple things, but we always turn up for meetings and we also give our energies and enthusiasm so new members come, they feel the vibe, they feel that, yeah, this is what we really want to do. And to make them feel that come as you are, no matter who or what you are very, very welcome. And would you say, Andrew, there are people who are feeling probably quite isolated and alienated in their life, and it's very hard for them to join a group?
Yeah, I feel like one of our unique selling points is that we are the kind of group that encourages people to bring their whole selves. I know it sounds very cliched and it's something that gets bandied about in the workplace, even bring your whole self to work. But the evidence does kind of show that we really need to create spaces like this where people can just come and be as they are, and that there's not that many spaces around where people feel safe to do that. So that's something that we're really proud of maintaining here. And we haven't had any, I don't, in the meetings I've attended, I haven't seen any sort of like uncomfortable behavior, which is really great.
That's fantastic.
Guys, we believe that we need a bit of pizzazz. That's something that the Pride community love is a little bit of something spectacular, a bit of pizzazz, a bit of enthusiasm, and that's our uniqueness. And in our communications, we try and portray that as well. A little bit of, yeah, uniqueness, but I think that's attractive. Robert, you actually were a judge at Mr. Leather, weren't you? And you actually promoted Pride in that avenue.
Yes, yes, I did.
So we're out there, Monique. We're
That's
out there.
brilliant. That's brilliant. And one of the things that I do really like is that you're very aware of who you want your target market to be. A lot of clubs sometimes are just like, oh, we don't have an idea of how to actually sell or promote what we want and the type of environment we're creating. And I love that you've got that and that you've been brought together to actually really, really promote that going forward. So that's fantastic.
Fantastic. And we have had contact with the Pride Club in Western Australia,
Yes.
but they've got their own flavour.
Yeah.
So, but it is nice to know that we have colleagues out there. But I do believe we're part of a wider community as well. But we have a very special brand, and that will flavour our meetings. So I love being a member of this club. I love it. I think it's really great. Always come feeling refreshed, particularly when Andrew talks about his latest costume. He's a master of costumes, which is fabulous. We love it.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. Look, thank you all so much for having me here this evening. I hope I've given you a few things to think about with transferable skills and stepping into a different role that you may not have considered. And I look forward to seeing your elections a little bit later today.
Thank you, Monique.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Shibi, you'll stop the recording.
Thank you for that.